Okay. I'm up. Okay. Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of It Is Far Too Early in the Morning for This. And today we are going to talk about The Beautiful Dark of Life from Atreyu. I am a very sleepy, eepy boy for reasons both unrelated to this album and also very much related to this album. It gets at least 50% of the blame. The other 50% goes to the insanity of working in a restaurant near Christmas. God damn it. I don't hate Atreyu per se, but I've always kind of seen them as like a B- C+ tier band at best. There are bright spots on early records like Suicide Notes and Butterfly Kisses and The Curse, but overall, this band just hasn't really done much to impress me. 2021's Baptize in particular, which marked their transition into hard rock and pop metal, I thought was an annoying, overproduced, and derivative mess. I really didn't have any reason to approach this with any kind of optimism or excitement, but I genuinely tried to. I tried to stay open-minded, and I tried to embrace this with open arms. Because sometimes, even when it's a band you don't really care for, you can be caught off guard. I would not consider myself the biggest fan of Under Oath, but their last studio album, The Voyeurist, I actually thought that was pretty solid. I was caught off guard by that record. Props to Under Oath. So I thought, hey, who knows, maybe this will be a fucking voyeurist situation. Maybe I'll be able to find something to kind of sink my teeth into and have some fun with here. And no, that didn't happen. I really did try, folks, but yeah, that didn't happen. I will say, when placed alongside Baptize, there are at least a few positives. For one, I think Brandon Saller is still a really good, clean vocalist. This record also isn't as bombastic or as overproduced as Baptize. I feel like I can actually hear everything, and it's not just, storming out of my speakers. All the songs on the album are bound by a concept of dealing with mental health issues and kind of hitting rock bottom, but getting better, trying to be better, working your ass off. By no means groundbreaking lyrical territory, but it does kind of help to create some cohesion for this album. And, everyone in Atreyu, again, they're playing their asses off. This is clearly material they care very deeply about, even if it is kind of mid. But yeah, I mean, it's still kind of mid. At best, frankly. At best. This album just kind of bored the crap out of me, folks. These songs are so predictable, so generic, so derivative. There's nothing happening on this album that you haven't heard on a wide variety of other kind of radio-friendly metal, pop metal kind of endeavors. Atreyu are continuing to tone down the heaviest aspects of their sound, and honestly, I would argue they're even toning down some of the poppier aspects of their sound. This doesn't really strike and sizzle and sparkle the way that some of the biggest hooks and melodies and harmonies on Baptize did. I mean, if you strip away some of the electronic beats and the few bits of groove-laden riffage, ultimately you're left with a fucking Daughtry album. The fucking butt rock, divorced dad rock vibes on here are fucking strong, man. You have Death or Glory, which is driven by this mind-numbingly simplistic, ham-fisted chugging, just da-na-na, na-na-na, 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 over and over again. There's a very basic stadium rock chorus that has no impact whatsoever, a few unnecessary vocal acrobatics, and I feel kind of bad for Sierra Deaton as well, who's brought in to do guest vocals, but ultimately she's kind of drowned out. I Don't Want to Die, despite its intentions of being this emotionally charged, declarative anthem, falls pretty flat on its face as well. It's constantly trying to stir and build up emotion and tension and drama, but instead of diving headfirst in the water, it just kind of treads and floats. It meanders on the same vocal harmonies and textures, it never evolves, it never blossoms. And when we finally reach a point where it feels like there should be some kind of real catharsis or transformation, the song just kind of comes to a close. The supremely simplistic 80s power ballad guitar licks sting a bit as well. This whole thing just ends up reeking of Mom, can we get November Rain? No, son, we have November Rain at home. Then there's Gone, which aside from some totally left field, unnecessary, hyper chunky metalcore riffage and shredding, is basically a pop punk song. I don't really hate that in theory. I have been getting more and more into pop punk, but like, I don't know, this thing is just so like thoroughly average. Like there's nothing on here that I didn't hear Fall Out Boy do way better back in the day, or for that matter, earlier this year on their most recent album. And then there's cuts like Drowning, Capital F, Watch Me Burn, which all kind of feel like a return to the more bombastic, overproduced radio metal of Baptize. We also get an orchestral ballad in the form of Forevermore, which I found to just be like lame, slightly obnoxious, sappier than a sugar maple. It's a totally paint-by-numbers cut that is trying way too hard to be really tender and really moving and really emotional. God Devil is easily the worst of the bunch, though. I was visibly, physically cringing with this thing. The worst of the bunch, though, is easily God Devil. Like, I was visibly, physically cringing with this one. It's got these ugly, pulsing, rave-like rhythms and electronic beats that kind of transition into, like, some heavier kind of, like, metalcore, industrial metal kind of stuff, I guess, with these screaming vocals and these more exaggerated kind of vocal dynamics as well. Like, there's a point where Brandon yells out, "Let's take the power back!" And then you just get, like, this really monotonous kind of, like, industrial metal with the swelling kind of synths and, like, this weird kind of, like, banging sound in the background. I'm not even sure what that is. It sounds like somebody is hitting an old school bell with a mallet. The way that this kind of transitions into the chorus, initially isolating the lead vocals, leaves a sour taste in my mouth as well. A little bit too falling in reverse for my liking. The actual chorus itself is big and loud and bombastic, once again a return to the days of Baptized, and I couldn't help but giggle when it like closed out on this like really soft kind of keyboard, as if like, oh man, oh, so dramatic. Oh, wow. Yeah, solid 1.5 out of 5 for me. I thought this was bad. I thought it was really bad, actually. I was just mostly kind of bored by this whole thing. Like, it's a snooze fest, especially on repeat listens. And when I wasn't falling asleep, I was kind of, like, rolling my eyes at this thing. Personally, I think this is the most boring album yet from Atreyu's. I think I would argue this is one of the worst albums of the year. I know this thing is going to have its fans because Baptized sure as hell did, and those fans had no issue telling me how much they hated my fucking guts. Bring it on. I don't care. If you love this album, more power to you. Please continue to enjoy it. But for me, I think this is the point where I jump off the Atreyu train. I was never really on it. I didn't even pay my fare. But yeah, this is my stop. Thank you. I gave it my best shot. Atreyu and I are just going to go our separate ways. Like, unless 2-3 years or so from now, Atreyu releases an album and everyone tells me, Robert, you're not going to believe it. This album's fucking incredible. It's going to change your fucking life. Unless I start hearing those kinds of fucking comments from, like, a lot of fucking people, not just Atreyu fans, I think me and Atreyu are done. And that's it. That's just what it is. 1.5 out of 5. Bad. Boring. Ugh. Yikes. That's all. Yeah. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe right here so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately, which you'll need because we're in the midst of that top 10 juicy content time. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.